How does an Auburn quarterback feel about how A-Day went on Saturday?
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Today's show features a conversation with Auburn quarterback Hank Brown. How does this coaching staff teaching these players maybe better than they did a year ago? And what's next for these players? The transfer portal opens next week. How does that impact the locker room? Auburn quarterback Hank Brown hanging out with us for a few minutes on today's Locked On Auburn. Hank, I imagine as a quarterback, it's really nice to be able to drop back and just throw to that Cam Coleman guy. He seems pretty good.
Yeah, it's a game changer to say the least. I mean, he's ridiculous. He changes the entire plan for our offense, and it's just such a blessing to be able to have him out there at receiver.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that was the first big play of A-Day. You hooking up with Coleman downfield. What'd you see on that play specifically, Hank?
Yeah, so Cam's route, he's kind of, coming inside, and then it's a go. So it's almost like, he's cracking down a block or whatever you want to say. It's like a decoy route in a way. And so as soon as I see both safeties down too high, I'm like, oh man, this could be a big play. And he obviously does his job with running the right route and beating the corner. And he's going to do that every time. So, yeah.
Something we've seen from you, Hank, in the limited time that Auburn fans have been able to see you, and I've heard that you do this in practice too, is you are not afraid to throw it deep. You are not afraid to go for the long ball. Would you agree with that?
I agree 100%. I think I go through my reads and process, but I think with especially these new receivers and Cam Coleman, like we're saying, I'm not afraid to let that thing loose. And, I feel the confidence in my accuracy and our receivers to be able to make those big plays.
Yeah. Do the coaches talk to you about that? Do they like that you do that? Do they say, hey, Hank, you don't always have to go for the home run ball? What does that conversation look like, even if there is one?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's much conversation about that necessarily. More so, I'd say it's about just going through my process. And if, they agree with the process of why I'm doing what I'm doing, then I think they love it,
Sure. Hank, it seems like the receiving room that we saw at A-Day and really just throughout the whole spring this year versus a year ago, I mean, it seems like it's night and day different. And it's not just Cam Coleman and Bryce Kane and Robert Lewis and Sam Jackson, the new guys, but you're seeing guys like Cam Brown, who I thought looked exceptional on Saturday. What have you seen from a guy like him?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like you're saying, it's not just the new guys. I think the guys from last year have made big strides. And Camden Brown, like you're saying, I think he's made the biggest strides. I think he is a whole new player. Just confidence, the way he leads that receiver room. He's doing an incredible job. And I think also just his catching ability also has gotten to a new level. And I think he's a guy who can win those 50-50 balls, even though, that's something that I think last year people would have said that, he hasn't. He's been working on that a ton, and I think, he could surprise Auburn fans with that ability.
Sure. Yeah, I think he certainly showed it on Saturday. No question about it. I think the most surprising aspect of the passing game Saturday to me, Hank, was how little Rivaldo Fairweather was involved. Was that part of the game plan? Was that a play calling thing? Did the defense take him away? Why did we see so little Rivaldo, you think?
Yeah, I don't think that was something that was in the game plan. Like we love obviously to get Rivaldo the ball.
Sure.
That's something that is going to be one of our big focuses. But I think the defense did a good job of taking him away. They obviously know he's a big part of our offense. And, I just think the way the game kind of played out and the way, we had to get the ball out in certain situations, it just that's kind of the way it went. And I think that can happen sometimes, but obviously him and Cam are two guys we always want to get involved.
Sure. Hank, I'm sure you've had enough time to watch the tape and maybe even go over it with coaches. I'm not sure exactly what your schedule looked like, but as far as evaluating how you performed on A-Day, how would you kind of grade yourself with that?
Yeah, I think first off, I would have loved to get in the end zone more and taking more advantage of the drives that I got. Obviously it was a great start with that long ball to Cam. I wish we could have finished that drive stronger. I think for the most part, my eyes were in the right place and made the right decisions. I think there was one decision where I shouldn't have handed off, should have kept it. But I think my accuracy was there for the most part. Missed one ball to Micah on a slant. But overall, I think I'd give myself a good grade. Kind of could control what I can control out there. Felt calm and confident. I think as I gain more comfortability with this offense, I think I'll get to a whole new level and stride. I think that's something that I've noticed for myself at least, and I think that's something for everybody is just when I get more comfortable with these plays and I can they signal me a play and I can get on the field and just be like, okay, I know exactly what everyone's doing. I know exactly where my eyes need to be. And, I think when that comfortability like truly comes, I think it'll be a whole new level. But I think, I showed some glimpses out there. Wish I could have put up more points, but overall I'd say it was a pretty good day.
Well, you're describing your drive. I mean, that happened a good bit, no matter who was at quarterback on Saturday. The offense would get into the red zone or close to it, and the defense would step up and the drives would stall, and Towns would get to kick a field goal, which happened over and over and over again. I want your thoughts on him in a second. But was that something that the defense did? Did the defense step up and they just really kind of did the whole bend but don't break type thing? Or was it an execution thing? What kind of led to the need of all of those field goals, do you think?
Yeah, I think the defense definitely stepped up in the red zone. I think they really took our run away. And especially in the RPO game, there are different situations where our read is telling us to run it, right? Because we have enough blockers to be able to block what's in the box according to our rules and whatnot.
Sure.
But, I think the defense just, really stepped up in the red zone and took that away. Obviously, there were many different scenarios, but I think overall, I'd say the defense stepped up.
Sure. You mentioned learning the plays. How different is this offense from a year ago with Derek Nix obviously coming in and Hugh Freeze appears to have a larger role in the offense this year. Is it pretty different from a year ago?
100%. I think I'd say it's very different. I think just everything that we do, I think there's more intentionality behind why we do it, and there's more of a focus on the why behind every play, and just a total understanding of exactly why we're doing what we're doing. And so just being on the same page with all the coaches and receivers and everybody, getting everyone on the same page and like truly diving into learning these plays. I think there's a whole new emphasis on the entire playbook. And then obviously, Coach Freeze loves his RPO game, and that's going to be one of our big main focuses this year. And so just learning and understanding how to run that and how his mind works through that and what he wants. So, I'd say definitely a big difference.
Sure. One of the things Coach Freeze said to the media afterwards, I'm sure he said it to you guys too, but he told us that he was pleased with the quarterbacks consistently making the right decision. Of course, he added the caveat as like it was right after the game. He's like, I haven't watched the film yet, obviously, but from what I could tell, these guys were consistently making the right decision. So I imagine that's encouraging.
For sure. Yeah, definitely encouraging hearing that from him. And, I think, he's done a good job of, helping us get to that point where, I think, it's been a learning process throughout spring of, just trying to get on that same page, like I was saying. And so, it definitely felt good to be there on Saturday.
Talk more about this coaching staff and what Hank's thoughts on them are in a moment right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. It's playoff time in the NBA and the NHL, and baseball is in full swing. pun intended. And FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. So there's a lot of guys that know a lot about offense now that I imagine you're interacting with and, being coached by on a daily basis. Obviously, Hugh Freeze is very good at coaching quarterbacks. His track record is very impressive. Derek Nix comes over, obviously from Ole Miss, and he and Coach Freeze have a long history together. I think Ken Austin, being the quarterback's coach, I know that's a guy that you have a lot of respect for. What's your relationship like, or I guess just the quarterbacks in general? What's the quarterback's relationship with each of these guys? Are you with Coach Austin more than the other guys? Is it more with Coach Nix, or is Freeze, or is it all with all three of these guys? What does that look like, Hank?
Yeah, I'd say we definitely spend time with all of them, but definitely majority of our time is with Coach Austin, and we spend all after practices just watching film. On the field, we're always with Coach Austin, and he's our guy. And so I'd say we all have pretty good relationships with all three of them, because they definitely all three play a big part in our offense. But as far as a quarterback standpoint, definitely spend the most time with Ken Austin, and he's awesome to have as a quarterback coach. I mean, it's a huge blessing, because he is one of the smartest football IQ coaches I've ever been around. And I think if you ask anyone in the building, they'd say he's one of the best in the country. And so it's just awesome being able to develop under a guy like him, and just learn so much. Like even just from this spring, I feel like I've made huge strides just being able to listen to him and learn from him both on and off the field. So yeah, I'd say for sure him.
From a meeting standpoint, were the quarterbacks with Coach Montgomery more last year? It was kind of quarterbacks with the OC, or was it a different type of arrangement last year?
Yes, sir. Last year we were with both Coach Montgomery and Coach Austin, but Coach Montgomery would lead our meetings.
Got it. And then when Coach Nix comes into the picture, is that more of just like big picture? Hey, the quarterback needs to know what everybody's doing specifically, and less just kind of quarterback focused stuff, or what does that look like?
Yeah, kind of like you're saying, more big picture stuff, more taking a role of leading our offense and also working with running backs. But he does an incredible job of leading our offense, and more of the big picture stuff, not necessarily focusing on necessarily our technique as much as Coach Austin would, but he definitely does help out a little bit as far as that area of it too.
Yeah. Hank, what have you learned from the other quarterbacks on the roster? I mean, obviously, Peyton is the incumbent guy who's played college football for a long time. Holden Gerner's been through now, a handful of different staffs. I mean, and then I'm sure Walker arrives with some knowledge and some traits that are respectable that you can learn from. So what have you learned from the quarterbacks in the room this year?
Yeah, I think I've learned a lot from all of them. I'd say, obviously, Peyton's been in college football a long time, and so it's cool to pick his brain. And also Holden's, he's been with a bunch of different OCs, coaches. But as far as Peyton with his experience, I think, I learned a lot from him from a knowledge standpoint of, understanding defenses, like learning little bits and pieces of how each quarterback prepares, and being able to find what works best for me and plugging that into the way I prepare. So I think there's a lot to learn from each of them. But I think I like learning from a knowledge standpoint from Peyton with all the experience he's had, for sure.
We continue our conversation with Hank Brown in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Hank, with this modern era of college football, we're about to enter a pretty interesting time with the portal opening on the 16th. So this upcoming Tuesday, Is this something you've thought about at all as far as like considering entering the portal?
It hasn't even crossed my mind.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm Auburn through and through. I love Auburn. I think that I'm in a great situation here. The coaches here are phenomenal. Like I was mentioning earlier with Coach Austin, and I think the part that I obviously love is the football side of it. Their knowledge is incredible to help me develop and help this team obviously get to where we want to be. But I also think the off the field part is big for me. A lot of these guys are men of faith, and that's something that I really look up to and get to learn a lot from. And obviously, Coach Freeze is also a really strong man of his faith, and so it's really cool to be able to just be alongside them each and every day. And I love Auburn, and I think this is where I'm meant to be for sure.
As far as going into a portal window, and I guess you saw this firsthand a few months ago, and when the December window opened, Hank. But is this something where like you kind of have a good idea of which teammates may be leaving, or is this kind of a thing where you're like, we don't really talk about this in the locker room, and it's like some of the guys say, okay, that I could see why he would leave, or oh, that's surprising. I'm surprised that he entered the portal. What is that like from your perspective, seeing some of your teammates potentially getting ready to leave the program?
Yeah, like you're saying, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's public knowledge that the entire team knows, oh, this guy's going to enter the portal, unless it's a situation where like, he's just done and we all know he's told us he's entering. But there's definitely some situations where I could be like, yeah, I definitely see why he would leave based on his circumstance or whatever's going on with him. And so, I wouldn't necessarily say that we all know all the time when people are going to enter the portal. A lot of time we just hear about it. But it is tough, seeing guys that you go to battle with, go to practice and lift weights, every day. We're all grinding for the same goal. And so when you see a teammate enter the portal, it's tough because, obviously we all want the same for this team. And so just being close with some of those guys who enter the portal, it's never a good feeling, but it's part of college football now. And so that's just what we're dealing with.
Yeah. And then I guess the other side of that is there's going to be guys that transfer in, and there's going to be guys that have been committed and signed with Auburn, but they need to graduate high school first to get here. And one of those guys is Perry Thompson, who was at the game on Saturday. Is this a guy you've talked to at all? Is a potential target for you in the passing game in the future at Auburn, or is this kind of something that you're going to wait till he gets here for?
Yes, sir. So when before I was actually here, when I was getting recruited here and took a visit in that short window, I was actually able to talk with Perry a while back when he was committed to Alabama.
Oh, wow.
And Coach Freeze told me, hey, we got to get this guy. Let's work on him. And so I was able to talk with him and his family a little bit and start building that relationship. And so I'm really excited for him to be here, obviously, as everybody is. And I'm just excited for that connection, and he can be really special, as everybody knows. I don't think I need to talk much about that, so I'm very excited.
So Freeze told you pretty early on when he was recruiting you to Auburn, and obviously you guys already had a relationship. You were committed to him when he was at Liberty, but he told you pretty early on, it's like, yeah, we need to get Perry Thompson from Alabama.
Yes, sir. Yeah, he's like, this guy. We need to get this guy. He's obviously big time, and I think we got a real shot at getting him flipped. So it's cool to look back on that and be like, yeah, worked out.
Yeah. Maybe he knows what he's doing or something. So Hank, thank you so much for your time, man. So what's next for you now, as far as you prepare for the upcoming season now that spring's behind us?
Yes, sir. So now we, as a team, we have workouts for the next about month until we finish school, and then I believe we get the month of May off and then head back for summer camp. So, during this time, I'm going to set up a plan just to prepare for fall, honestly, and what that looks like both on and off the field. I think definitely on the field matters a ton, and getting that chemistry with those receivers, continuing to build that with with obviously working in what we got with this new offense. But then off the field, just learning, you know, the new things that we're putting into this offense, as well as learning how to study film and learning how to study our opponents for next year. So I think it's a big time for me to take advantage of just preparing for next year.
Yeah. Hank, thanks again for your time, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Hank. If you like these types of shows, please let me know in the comments down below or in the Discord or on social media at Blackerby. Everywhere, especially on Instagram, really trying to grow over there and post some exclusive content from time to time on Instagram. So connect with me over there. Please like the video, please subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow. This has been Locked On Auburn.